Mike Cole. I just wanted to explain what I meant the other day, but by the fact that I meant the survey is skewed. So I'm going to go through this really quickly with you, as quick as I can here. So first question, first problem with this thing is your email address. So it doesn't verify your email address. And that's a problem because generally anyone with an email address can fill this in. So one of the challenges we had, one of the counselors said that our change.org petition was rife with fraud. And that was the change.org actually verifies your email. So they ask you for your email and then they actually send an email and you're required to verify that before it even counts your entry into change.org. So this doesn't verify your email. So that's the first problem with this survey. So I'll flip through it pretty quick here just for the sake of time. So I don't have a problem with slides 1, slide 2. When you think of Port Perry Fairgrounds, what comes to mind? There's no wrong answer there. That's fine. Thinking ahead, you should always remain true about the fairgrounds. So that is indicating sort of like that the current use is unacceptable. So that's sort of leading in that sense. But other than that, I have no problem with this question. So this is the major deal breaker right here for me personally. I have an issue with. So select up to 5. There's absolutely no need to say select up to 5. So when you look at this, the question is, in your view, what role or value does the fairgrounds play in community life today? So if you looked at the boards on the value, when we did the sticky note exercise, there was way more than 5, right? So, that's really important. And then it doesn't actually ask you to rank them in terms of importance. So what that does is that allows you to just pick any 5, right? So in situations like this, people are just going to pick the first agreeable 5, right? So you look at this, it's open space. Yeah, of course. A place for leisure and recreation. Yes, there's even a baseball diamond. There's people running, dogs, all of it. A place for community gatherings and events. Yes, we know the fair. That could be considered 1. Place for heritage and tradition. Of course, the fair has been around forever. Everyone knows it. This place has a lot of heritage and tradition. A quiet space in town, yeah, depending on the day and time, it can be, right? And then you get down to 6, and generally you're not getting past 6 here because this is a safe and accessible place. So even if you're like, I don't like a quiet place, I like an accessible place, you've already got 5 agreeable answers here. So what statistics tell us is that people in a survey like this, with on question 4 of 23, thinking they have, 19 more questions to go, they are going to pick the first agreeable 5, right? So the challenge with that, and the reason why I have a problem with this, is because this is the Agricultural Society. These 2 answers right here, a link to Scugog's agricultural heritage and home of the annual fair, are the things that link the Agricultural Society to this property. So again, the way that this is laid out is people are going to pick the first 5 and move on. It actually doesn't allow you to pick more than 5 because it says it will stop you and will not allow you to carry on with the survey until you remove some of these. So we'll remove these 2 for the sake of moving on, and I'll move on here. So this one, again, is a huge problem because the challenge is that all of these answers are good. So what values guide decisions about the fairgrounds? Select up to 5. Again, the 5 again, so this is problematic. So ensure year-round community benefit. Yes, of course. Protect open space and rural character. Yes. Honoring local heritage and identity. Again, it's that heritage sort of connection. Who would say no to that? Because it is a heritage property. And for most people, obviously it's not technically. Supporting for local agriculture and education. So that's your education center. And agriculture could be simply a greenhouse or someone having a community garden there, right? So that's not necessarily the Agricultural Society. Even if people are thinking that they're supporting, that's what they're supporting. So accessibility for all ages and abilities. So it's like you're not getting past the accessibility because there's so many great answers. And even if you get past there, the 6th answer is supporting recreational health and well-being. So, I mean, you have 6 excellent answers there. You're only allowed to pick 5. People, again, we're on question 5 of 23. They're going to pick the top 5 in order to move on here. The challenge is that when you reach this financial sustainability and cost responsibility, I mean, one can construe that or easily take that as a sale or as, but it doesn't actually say that, but it's a negative. So you have all these positives, right? And then you have a negative. So people generally will stay above the negative, thinking maybe that these are all negatives. The problem is that the Port Perry Agricultural Society is right here, supporting partnerships with local groups. The only partner on this site is the Port Perry Agricultural Society. So people will not pick this because, again, it's wordsmithing with the actual language, why don't you say supporting partnerships with PPAS? That would make that obvious, and then allow more than five would be helpful as well. So I'll remove this one for the sake of moving on, and we'll move on here. Experience and use. The challenge with this question right here is it doesn't indicate whether you live locally. Checkbox. Do you live locally? When people think of township parks, people use them locally, right? So they're all over the township, and you use your local one. You generally don't travel to go to a park. So that's an important question that's not discussed here, right? So living locally, they don't require your postal code, so you don't know whether the person lives locally, and that's a challenge with this particular one. And it also indicates how often you visit the fairgrounds currently, not the future use. So in terms of it says current use right here, so it doesn't indicate how often you would use it if it was a desirable location. So I mean that's certainly worth noting as well. So when you visit the fairgrounds, what typically do you do there? And again, this is just today, right? So this is not in the future. What would you do? And then it says select all that apply. So after going through all these questions with five, now it wants you to check as many as possible. In fact, as you check them all, you can check all of them, and that doesn't even make sense. It says I do not currently use the fairgrounds, and that also, it says enjoy green space and open areas. So this is not even logical in terms of the approach here. And again, you can select all because this is not really an important question in terms of the overall scheme of things, or it certainly doesn't ask you to rank them in terms of which ones are more important. So this is again problematic. Question 6. How would you describe the overall accessibility and ease of use for the fairgrounds today? I think there's a real focus on accessibility in seniors in this particular survey, which is great because I think that, in our poll as well, it was important, but it was only one of the elements that we focused on, right? Like there was a pool, there was bathrooms, there was community gardens, there was the farmers market. These were all priorities on our poll, right? So we're not seeing those reflected in this survey. What we're seeing is a lot of focus on accessibility. I think it's in 4 or 5 different questions. So again, accessibility is important, but it's only one of the things that's really important, right? So how would you describe the overall accessibility? This is a really obvious question. I mean, there's no accessibility on the fairgrounds today. It's very, very difficult to get around for anyone with accessibility issues. Are there any barriers that make it harder for you to use the fairground? Again, this is a focus on accessibility, right? So it could be a situation of distance, but I mean, for the most part, especially when you just came from an accessibility question, I think there's going to be a tremendous, response to accessibility, right? So we have 4 or 5 different questions that focus on just that. Priorities and possibilities, right? So this question is really problematic too, right? Because people generally answer on the polar side, right? So and then again, it's leading adjectives at the beginning. So protecting and enhancing open green space, who wouldn't want to? Again, at no cost, because there's no actual, you're not weighing it against the cost of what these cost in order to implement, right? So supporting year-round community use, exploring long-term possibilities, supporting community events and cultural activities, and then we go to improving. Who wouldn't want to improve the recreational opportunities? Who wouldn't want to improve accessibility? Again, at no cost. Improving amenities, no cost, no balancing or sort of emphasizing one or the other, ranking them, right? So there's no cost, there's no rank. Preserving heritage and identity, who wouldn't want to do that? So this is where it's problematic, because then it says maintain the site as it is today. So there's no leading adjective. So your instinct again is not to just click very important. Your instinct is actually to click something else, right? So this is where it gets problematic, because it's like they really don't want you to click maintain as the site is today, right? Because it really doesn't have that adjective, and it sort of like stops all the preserving and supporting and exploring and improving, and now you're on to maintain. So it sort of indicates that the site is unacceptable, right? So there's sort of a theme of that, like we have to move to another in another direction. So this is word salad. So ensuring financial sustainability and responsible investment. This one is a word salad for, I guess, selling. Ensuring financial sustainability. The fairgrounds have made a tremendous amount in terms of equity. Just having that property, every year it increased in value, and sustainability. It's certainly sustained itself. And responsible investment, is that selling the property to do something with it? Like, it's really unclear and word salady in this particular question. There's no need for it to be this complicated. Do you have any ideas or hopes for how the fairgrounds could serve the community in the future? So that's sort of leading the question. So it's not serving the community today, in my opinion. But again, it's talking about future use, and it is in that realm. So that's fine. So people answer the way they want to answer. Final reflections. Is there anything else you want us to keep in mind as we continue to use these community conversations? Um, yes, and then these ones are optional. So postal code shouldn't really be optional if we want to actually have accurate information. We want to know where people live, especially when we're not verifying their emails. We want to know where people live in terms of the postal code. Year of birth, important information in most surveys. Gender, same thing. How are y'all connected to the community? And then again, you can select all that apply. You can say I live in Scugog and also I live outside of Scugog, right? And that's an okay answer here, which is not logical. And this is how long you've lived in Scugog. This question is important, and like, is it relevant? Because I mean, if you've lived in the community to the west, then you haven't been there very long because those are new subdivisions. But you might use the fairgrounds every day. If you live directly to the south of the fairgrounds, you might have lived here 20, 30 years, right? So I'm not sure there's a relevance in terms of fairground usage, right? Or someone that's lived in a newer community versus an older community. People are going to use their local park, right? So that doesn't really seem relevant. But again, I guess it's poll information. Email address. So they're asking as if it's optional. So again, it shouldn't be optional. If it's part of the survey at the beginning, does that mean that I can use a different email here and then do the survey a couple times? Like, it's concerning that they're asking for this after I already logged in using an email. And then it's giving me a recap. So that's about it. I just wanted to point out some concerns. People can, obviously fill in the survey if they want to, or don't fill in the survey if they don't want to. I don't want to discourage anyone from not filling it in, but I just wanted to flag those items and sort of my opinion on it. Okay, thanks a lot.